Marfoogle News going live in 3, 2. It's not gonna be a while, no man, no child, no when the end comes, and I tell you, no, you're... All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. So, a Philadelphia DA is first of all supporting new legislation aimed at restricting immigration and customs enforcement activities within the city. During a press event outside City Hall promoting a new ICE Out initiative, Krasner, a progressive prosecutor whose campaign was receiving backing from Soros, pledged to hunt down the ICE agents, comparing them to the Germans of World War II. He argued that the agency's practices represented federal overreach and violated constitutional rights. But again, I do understand parts of it, but again, if you look at the back end of this, there was a couple Fugel family members that are actually part of ICE. They are not just in most cases picking random people. They have extremely targeted intelligence on these people, which is the bigger question: is how do they have that targeted intelligence? We've obviously covered things like Ring doorbell cameras are now, you can actually volunteer to have your Ring connected to Flock AI. You're talking about facial recognition, specifically picking out these people that they absolutely know are not supposed to be here. Now, that's a bigger freaking constitutional right thing, in my opinion, but again, there's a lot going on here. It says this is a small bunch of wannabe Germans from the 1940s, and that's what they are. Krasner said, in a country of 350 million, we outnumber them. If we are to hunt them down in the way that they hunted down the Germans for decades, we will find their identities. We will find you. We will achieve justice. So, I mean, you can say that he's implying something, but I mean, it's pretty direct. That's insane. Right now, we're going to show you in just a second what a deranged nurse, or at least that's what they're calling her, just got put away for. We'll talk about that here in a second. But before we do, make sure to go check out marfooglenews.com/EMP. I think it's more important than ever that people understand where we're at right now, especially with the rest of the world. Everybody is focused internally on our own country, which for good reason. Most of us, we would rather that we stay out of all of the other business. But unfortunately, we haven't. We've taken leaders, presidents, whatever clandestine services that are going in possibly China, in Iran, and in other countries. That will cause a response. And that response, most of us preppers believe that the most likely event to the United States will be some sort of EMP to our grid system or to something to our power grid. So again, if you want to protect yourself against this, you can go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP and get an EMP shield on your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, both solar and gas in the case of the energy. And of course, you can even get Starlink and ham radio versions. Most of them are plug and play. The car version, the most popular version to keep your car running after an EMP or a Carrington level event from the sun. This covers both. Again, that will take in less than 10 minutes to put in, and you don't need a mechanic to do it. Very, very easy. marfooglenews.com/EMP, code MARF. All right, let's bring in my co/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today? What is Arlington County doing?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Fugel fam. I'm doing just fine. So, yeah, look, you said that they were starting this, or they were adding this in your state, and things were getting out of hand. And now we just, covered the story about Philadelphia. We've also got, what's going on in Arlington County, Virginia now. So this is like all over America. It's expanding just like you predicted. But the chair of the Arlington County Board, another board member, of encouraging the county residents to now call 911 if they see ICE. So it helps us know where they are in our community so that we can better pursue law enforcement's mission of preventing violence in our community, according to the Arlington board chair. So, I mean, this kind of statement is, I mean, depends on what side you're on how you're going to take it. But I never thought we'd come to this in America, where we're, telling the population in a city to call the local authorities if you see the federal authorities. I mean, the Constitution itself says the federal authorities have the ultimate, power. That's been the case since, day one, and it's what Lincoln used for the Civil War, to be honest.
So, and I didn't have a crystal ball when I called that this would be spreading. It's covering the things that happened in my state, especially during 2019 and that whole fiasco. We were essentially the testing grounds for certain things, and I knew that if we were taking a stance on something, we are a very powerful state as far as the Democratic side of things. And when we started doing things like this, when we have something getting put into play, I told you point blank that this exact sort of thing was going to spread to other states if my state was doing it. That's why I warned you, when you see this kind of stuff, you're going to see it spread. And not only this, almost everything that I talked about in that week period is now happening around the country. So, and that is because also my state and my city has some of the meetings of some of the groups that are really pulling the strings on that side of things. There are groups, No Kings, for example, that is something that is rooted not only here, but in Oregon. So, you have these things where you can clearly see where they come back to and where they're talking about this kind of stuff. Just like on a world stage, you can tell right after the WEF happens that, big things happen. There's a lot to go over. It's insane. Now, they said, this is, again, their quote, deranged nurse fired after urging to give people things that would hurt them to that stuff that you would make somebody consume, that stuff that happened to the Russian opposition to Putin, and paralyzing of ICE agents. Again, a nurse of Virginia Commonwealth University Health has been terminated after posting a series of videos urging sabotage against ICE agents, including putting things in their body with paralytic substances and poisoning food and drinks. That is absolutely insane. So when people go on social media and they say things, obviously, I know that things that we say obviously are very important. That's why I don't say the end of the world is coming tomorrow, because there are people out there that literally will believe it, and they'll sell their house and they'll build a bunker. That's why it's important when you have any kind of platform to know what you're saying. Of course, we've heard the rhetoric of both sides saying, oh, well, if they have a platform, they can't say those kind of things. We also have freedom of speech. But that doesn't mean that you just say certain things to cause bodily harm to others. That, again, is kind of a red line. You shouldn't be able to say that kind of stuff. But at the same time, you should be able to say it in a way where if you said it in a certain way, then yeah, there's a group of people that also believe that you should be able to say certain things without being worried about punishment. But to encourage people to actually be harming, this is something that a lot of folks have a problem with. Dex, what did you think about this? I mean, the video, if you see it, it's pretty clear that, they had a lot of evidence against her, right?
A lot of people do a lot of crazy things for various reasons. And the times we're in right now are one in which that is just amplifying at a much greater level, whether it's, engaging and trying to interfere with law enforcement doing their job versus peacefully protesting or doing something as crass as this. And she's not the first nurse. There was another nurse I just heard about that said something. I think she was a labor and delivery nurse out of Florida or somewhere, said something really horrific. I can't remember what the story was. But she lost her job immediately. She worked for a Baptist hospital, I believe it was, or some sort of religious hospital. And they're like, yeah, that ain't going to fly. So, but this is what we've come to, and we've gotten here through a combination of media. We've gotten here through a combination of social media. We've gotten here through a combination of these specific narratives that have been driven into the culture through the school systems, through the youth, to divide and divide in a big way. Not just that, some people like chocolate and other people like vanilla, but no, we need to do something harmful to those people that like chocolate if you like vanilla, because they're just absolutely wrong. And you can't be that person. And that's what's crazy when you look at the state that we're getting into. And this is just amplifying more and more. Sure, you can go back decades and decades. We've always had uprisings and we've always had consternation. Probably a lot of it has been manufactured to an extent by the powers that be, insert whatever name you want here, 3-letter agency, etc. But still, where we are today, I feel it seems like it's much greater than we've seen in a long time.
And if you look, she's doing this at work. That's another thing that people pointed out is, she's doing this at work. Obviously, during CV in 2019 and all of that, we had thing. And they're also simultaneously telling us that they don't have any workers, that there's, mass burials. People are perishing left and right from this thing that was going around. Meanwhile, you have, 6 or 7 nurses doing a flash mob in the hallway. So people obviously thought, this is lame. But as far as this goes, encouraging women to go on dates and then to put substances in their food, that's pretty disturbing, no matter how you look at it. But again, I've seen a lot of people, especially locally here, posting stuff that's even worse, and no one's really saying anything. Meanwhile, they can take things out of context from the other side and even try to put them in prison. Of course, Europe is going through the same thing. We're going to talk about much, much more. We're going to talk about China. We're going to talk about Japan. We're going to talk about gold. Again, this is insanity. It passed 5,500. If you watched last night, we were talking about how it went up $100 or 230. It is now up over 5,500. If you are not clearly seeing what's happening right now, folks are losing all faith in the U.S. dollar. There are major countries putting money into separate and diversifying into separate entities, including Japan. Again, some of the big dogs are putting money into countries and other currencies, and I think that this is because they are long-term investors that are investing right before a war. They're going to wait out the war, and when the dust settles, historically, you have actually had almost every kind of war scenario. As long as they win, you have had that country bounce back and actually do even better. So then they cash out. Then they, 300, 400, 500, 600% returns on investments like that, like Warren Buffett. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. We'll talk about Japan. We'll talk about China. We'll talk about what's happening. China says that they actually just got into a tiff with a foreign vessel, a foreign warship, but they didn't say who. Why did they not say who? And what I think that country is, we'll talk about that when we get back. Again, be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. We'll see you over on Marfoogle TV. Just stay there. If you're in the chat, you'll be ported over. If you're watching the replay, all you have to do is click here.